Good morning. It is Thursday, June 26th. Kyle and I are in Atlanta, Georgia for a super secret invite-only meeting with Automotive Ventures. Today, we're talking about Roger Penske, some states getting their charging funds in or out, and AI winning top rates. We got to talk about AI.
Happy people, mad people.
Happy people, mad people.
Happy and people, mad people.
Actually, I think you just summarized the news in one phrase. We should just call it Happy People, Mad People.
That's a great show title.
Really is.
Hey, we're doing a lot. We've got we've got content coming out of our ears, but if you haven't been following ASOTU concessions, you absolutely have to. We've got a piece of content with Kylan Whitner. He was a 40 under 40 last year, leading from eye level. Absolutely like stunning young gentleman that is thinking outside the box. And then we did an auto collabs with Jade Terraberry with Cox Automotive. Title of that, Rewriting the Vendor Dealer Playbook. Always something that we're attracted to. Like, how do we interact well between those two pieces of our industry?
Yeah, so you can get those by just going to any podcast state outlet, typing in ASOTU or ASOTU concessions, and the podcast will come up. We make a lot, like Kyle said. We make a lot that you've probably never seen. We also did a rip-roaring webinar yesterday. Boy, was that a fun one.
Yeah.
You can still get the recording. You just go to ASOTU.com. It's right there up top. You can register. Integrate, don't agitate. How smart stores add AI without the pain. We had Scott Traylor with Mia. We had Luke Morris of Earnhardt CDJR. And these two were two of the best guests we've ever had on a webinar.
And Luke is savvy as all get out. But we had a ton of fun. You should check it out. It definitely will help out if you're thinking about integrating AI into your processes, how to get connected to your people. And there's one like critical action that Luke is taking inside his organization to drive down tech adoption that you're not going to want to miss.
And if you want to find out what happens when the service department low key turns on an AI tool for the sales department, you need to hear this story. And by the way, here's this hint. It actually works. So don't sleep on your service managers.
That's right.
Service directors, because they might know a thing or two about selling some cars, actually. All right, let's talk about some news. Auto and racing icon Roger Penske received the Automotive News Centennial Award and shows no sign of slowing down despite being 88 years old. God bless him. He reflected on 6 decades of building a business empire by putting our favorite part, people first. He credits a coin from his father inscribed that says effort equals results as a lifelong guiding principle. He said focusing on people over products is key, calling it his secret sauce behind building an organization with 74,000 employees.
That is like, there's not many organizations in the world with 74,000 employees.
That's right.
And when you think of it coming from auto and then the impact on families and communities and like down the line, it's not just those 74,000 that have been impacted by what he's done over time.
Also, their leadership growth at Penske is mostly internal. 95% of management moves are from inside the organization. He did raise a few concerns over the future of the franchise dealer model, warning direct-to-consumer shifts could undermine the system if we don't address it individually. He described Elon Musk as a great industry disruptor, saying Musk came in here and did an amazing job. He turned the industry on its head. So recognized real is what that sounds like.
It does. And I think when for him, over 6 decades, it was the it was actually literally 60 years ago. I think it was 1965 that he bought his first store shortly after he ended his racing career. And you look at like over 6 decades, you see a lot of disruption come in. You see a lot of early movers, new movers come in. And when you look at someone like Elon Musk or other competitors that are in the market and big box retailers like a Carvana and CarMax, if you as an industry leader can't look at that and go, hey, that's something that we can look to say that has significantly impacted our industry in a good way. Kudos to him and kudos to Automotive News and everybody for recognizing such an impressive person in our industry.
For sure. I think we skipped by this too fast in the intro, but we're in Atlanta right now.
We are in Atlanta.
Well, we spent the day yesterday at Beaver Toyota, which was amazing.
Always.
There's going to be some fun stuff to talk about from there. But Steve Greenfield invited us to an Automotive Ventures invite-only event. We're not allowed, actually,
to say any more than that.
To tell you what it's about or who's going to be here. But I can tell you we know who's going to be here. And it's actually it's a who's who, and it's unlike any auto industry event. It's like I I know it's like an abstraction on the industry.
It is.
So-
And it is looking over the horizon like only Steve Greenfield
Well,
can.
maybe I don't know. Maybe today we'll get to tell you about it later, but we can't tell you about it right now. We told you all that we can tell you about it. If that doesn't
Otherwise-
get you going.
Yeah.
Back to bad people, happy people. A federal judge in Seattle has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from axing billions of dollars in EV charging funds in 14 states, ruling that the states are likely to win the case. This Biden era $5 billion EV charger program, we talked about it. They got
talked
like
about
3
it, yep.
chargers up, were frozen in February with state plans all rescinded. Judge Tana Lin ruled that withholding the funds likely violated federal law, harming states that invested in infrastructure, expecting federal support. That's fair enough. The injunction gives the Trump administration 7 days to appeal. Legal battle reflects the broader efforts to scale back EV incentives and environmental regulations. The states in their lawsuit said, quote, the administration's actions will devastate the ability of states to build the charging infrastructure necessary for making EVs accessible to more consumers.
Yeah, I mean, there's a I think a both and scenario here, where obviously when you start building into infrastructures, hiring, creating that, plans around infrastructure, you're depending on funds to be available to back that up. So I can see from the state's perspective, like all this planning, all this building, these commitments on the promise of funds. I can't imagine being in that. We definitely have been on the side of like, let the consumer decide when to build these things. I actually looked back. I did a little bit of study this morning as we were prepping this show and looked back at how the infrastructure of gas came in. And it was completely driven by private funds, private companies building like companies that were driven by consumer demand over time. Now, that's an industry that was built over about 40 years from the first gas station thing to a self-service gas station,
because
function.
car adoption, right, was also on it. Yeah.
So I can see how there's definitely not a direct line to comparison, but I think we're well suited as a country to let the private sector decide how to build these types of things. So it is an interesting like balance where pre-committed funds, states committing to all this stuff. Like I can't imagine how to deal with that as a state. And so I think that there has to be some level of both and happening here.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because I think it's in the industry's best interest that charging infrastructure moves forward.
Absolutely.
Because as a drivetrain, the EV drivetrain is going to continue to gather traffic. We had this artificial push. Also a lot of pressures from China, right? A lot of pressures from this drivetrain that is has like literal forced traction in other parts of the world,
and
but
that's
without a
happening in
doubt,
Europe, and
the noose is tightening when it comes to the drivetrain being available all the places of the world, right? Because China's pushing product into all these areas very cheaply, very affordably, and so for the U.S. to be able to keep up, to incentivize U.S. automakers to continue to develop the drivetrain, people need to want to buy them, which means people need to be able to charge them.
That's it.
But I think, one of the Trump administration, it seemed like the biggest qualms was the inefficient use of the funds.
Sure.
Right. So we put $5 billion to it, and you look at actually what has happened.
Well, and I think that's the both and. Like, can we get back to some place where we are driving funds, but the oversight and the impact of those funds is a lot higher than maybe what we've seen over the past few years? Could be the both and.
There you go. Happy people, mad people. Can we speak of happy people, mad people? I mean, it really tracks to this next story.
It's the theme of today. We got a segue.
It's the theme of
that's
every
a
day,
segue. That's a
honestly.
segue. But today we're leaning into it. 2 federal judges delivered back-to-back wins for AI developers this week, siding with Anthropic and Meta in copyright lawsuits brought by authors. While both rulings support fair use in AI training, the door remains open for some more future legal challenges. So in the Anthropic case, Judge Alsup ruled the company could legally train AI on physical books it bought and digitized, calling it transformative, spectacularly so. So like he was saying, like, this is a transformative way to think about that because there was still a physical purchase. He drew the line at pirated content, saying a separate trial will determine damages for millions of unauthorized books stored by Anthropic. So there's like, this was like the first step of one.
Oh,
In the Meta trial, they also secured a summary judgment with Judge Chabria, stating that plaintiffs made the wrong arguments, not that Meta's actions were fully lawful.
Oh, so technicality.
It was kind of a technicality of the law, so there's definitely going to be a comeback there. They dismissed claims that AI models like Claude and Llama meaningfully harm book markets or replicate text at scale. Judge Alsop added, the author's complaint is no different than if they complain that training school children to write well would result in an explosion of competing works. That's a wild, it
is a wild
comparison to draw, you know?
How that's interesting because you're talking about a human's ability to process and generate an output versus a machine who can, generate output at scale when how fast is a child going to learn to read and write? Over a lifetime, they're going to write and produce content.
It's speed. It's pace. It's what AI was meant to do, is pace up transactional items.
Yeah, we had this conversation a lot yesterday. We've been having it more and more as it relates to the auto industry. As we see these problems, they're going to figure out the copywriting and the training. In the meantime, I think always best practices if you're making content, right? Don't steal. And if you use somebody else's work, make sure you credit it, all those things. But the regard, why we talk about AI so much, and by the way, we have an AI newsletter, autoindustry.ai. You can go to it, sign up, and get it, is that there are so many things that are uncovered as we're in hands deep in stores and strategy, where we're wait a minute, if we can do these things with AI on our own, how come some of these tech companies and service companies, dealers, aren't deploying these tools to solve the problem that the dealers telling us they're having right now?
Right now, yeah.
And we're actually AI can solve that relatively quickly.
That's exactly right.
And not 4 months from now, but actually 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, when you think about agents or vibe coding and some of the things that are even 6 months ago were kind of unfathomable, that are possible now, and the rate and speed at which we're going to be able to develop over the next 12 months is going to be absolutely insane. So I think that, whether it's writers or creators or anything like that, it's how do you live in this age, and how do you create and write with intention in this age and get over the noise. Right. And that's going to be, how do you build brand? How do you attract new clients? How do you build loyalty? All those type of things that rise over the noise.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, we had a couple conversations about loyalty yesterday.
Come on now.
Listen, roll the music. We're about to go to our super secret meeting. We have to surrender our phones and our microphone. They're going to take our hats, check them for devices.
No.
Not going to do any of that stuff, but we're not going to be filming anything. That's for sure. Without a doubt. Take care of one another. We'll see you here and tell you as much as we possibly can.